We did it. We did it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to More We Talk. We talk football. And I'm so relieved. I am so relieved. Honestly, y'all go check out my previous video. I was nervous. Why was I nervous? I was nervous because under pressure, we tend to fumble under pressure. And I did mention Sanchez. And in the first half, there was a bit of that. And I was like, oh my God. And every time Sanchez had the ball, there was just this fear. Because we just fumbled under pressure, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. And just as I was worried about a draw, but I said, if we win, it's going to either be a 2-1 win or a 1-0 win. Okay. Yes, we won. The first half started and it was a little bit cagey, as I expected, because, like I said, both sides are fighting for the same thing. However, it was harder for Nottingham Forest because Aston Villa were right behind us on the same points, and they would need Aston Villa to lose as well as Newcastle, which actually worked out. So yes, if they had won, they would have potentially qualified for the Champions League. And all I just kept on saying throughout the game was like, please Chelsea, don't do this. Please Chelsea, don't do this. And it pleases me to say that we are back in the Champions League, baby. We're back. I'm excited, but I'll get to that part later on in the video. So the game starts and it was a bit cagey, as I suspected. And as the game started to develop, I noticed that Nottingham Forest were seeing more and more of the ball. And I'm like, come on guys, don't you want this? And Wood, that fella, I did say in the preview, I said that I would like Chalobah in defense and Cowell or Tosin. I also said that I would prefer Tosin in the previous video because I felt that Cowell can make mistakes, especially under pressure. We've seen that happen in the first leg against Liverpool when the pressure is switched on. We've seen that happen. However, Enzo Maresca, he decided to go with, as I predicted, putting Pedro Neto up front. He didn't put Palmer by the wing. Instead, he went for Sancho and Madueke and Sancho wing, and Caicedo and Enzo in the midfield with Cole Palmer as the attacking midfielder. And we also had Cucurella, as I predicted, of course, and we had Reece James, as I predicted, of course. But what we didn't have was Chalobah, as I predicted. And I wanted Tosin. We had Tosin, and instead we had Cowell. Boy, oh boy, am I glad to be wrong. So as the game goes on, we had more chances, but Nottingham Forest, to me, seemed more direct. The one chance that I would say that came really, really close was the cross in for, I think it was Madueke that made that cross. A cross in for Pedro Neto in the first half. And Pedro Neto, I felt, this is just me, maybe I'm reaching, but I felt that Pedro Neto should have gone in with a lunging, you know what they say, a diving header. Because a diving header with that kind of speed, regardless, I don't think the keeper's catching that. Even if he tries to dive the right way, with that speed, no way, that thing's going in. But instead, fair play, he decides to go for to hold, try to, I don't know, to sort of trap the ball. So, and in that process, he kind of hits the ball wide, and the ball's gone, and another opportunity goes begging. So, game continues, and we start to, I don't know, it seemed cagey, but not so cagey, but it's almost like as if there was this disconnect between midfield and attack at some point in the game. And it's almost like as if we're trying to go forward, but we want it to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, the setup isn't perfect, we're going backwards. However, like I said, we had more chances. Nottingham Forest didn't really have much chances, but every single chance, my heart skipped a beat. So they players like Elanga, as I suspected, and Olaina, as I suspected, Woods was a potential threat, and which I applaud Maresca for including the likes of Tosin, because you see, Tosin has the height, and you can imagine with how bad we are aerially. Imagine trying to stop someone like Woods. It would have been a nightmare because that fella is tall. That fella is tall. And Elanga was a constant menace. Elanga and Olaina, they were constant menaces. Yeah, whatever. So the game just it sort of seemed 50-50 towards the end of the first half, and you just kept on feeling it. The confidence was growing gradually. That's for Chelsea. The confidence just kept on growing. You could just sense it in the game. And I will not lie to you, most of that game, I just had my eyes on other games. I was looking at the Aston Villa versus Manchester United, especially. And I also had a peep at the Newcastle Everton game. And surprisingly, all three games ended in a draw in the first half. 0-0 draw. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Final 45 minutes, let's do this. So we started the second half pretty decent. And like I said, the midfield played its role. I wanted Lavia, but we didn't get Lavia. And I'm not going to lie, Cole Palmer, for me, most of the time, wasn't really there. He was there, but not there. And Enzo Fernandez, our midfield didn't have its best outing, but it stood in a way. It didn't crumble totally, like compared to the Newcastle game where we just totally crumbled. But it was there, it stood, but we didn't have a really good outing, especially Cole Palmer. I just really hope that he finds his form, especially going into next season. In fact, not just next season, but like the Bluco says, the 2-season season, yeah? So I hope he finds his form soon, especially for the Club World Cup. I really hope he finds his form. So the game kept on being a little bit 50-50, and you know what? I'm just really going to go straight to it. The ball comes to Pedro Neto. Pedro Neto, for me, I like the guy. He's aggressive, especially with his runs. And as he did in the second half, he kept on making those crosses. And this is something that I just kept on looking at. I'm like, if we had a striker that could be combative, also aerially, can you imagine the amount of opportunities we'd have? In fact, every time we had a corner, I'm like, yeah, nothing's going to happen from it. And it always ends the same way because we are so bad aerially. So, what's his name? Pedro Neto. Pedro Neto makes a beautiful cross in to who was it? Was it Madueke? I don't remember, but I do know that there was a cross in from Pedro Neto, and the defense, the Nottingham Forest's defense tries to stop it, but it gets to Colwell, Levi Colwell, and once again, a defender is the one doing the scoring. Well, at this point, I don't care. As long as you win. I even said it while I was watching the game. Look, Chelsea, if you're going to win by 0-0, I'll take it just to win. So we Cole Palmer slots it in. And he was at the edge of the far end of the goal post, unmarked, and fair play, Levi Colwell. Fair play. Your positioning was spot on for a defender. I was very impressed. Sancho, on the other hand, Sancho, and I kept on saying it, especially in the second half. Get Sancho off the field. Sancho isn't really giving much because Sancho just goes, he tries to take on his man. Before you know what's going on, he's taking the ball backwards. And I'm like, get Sancho off. I need Lavia in this game, especially with the fact of the possibility of, Caicedo picking up a yellow card. I'm like, get this brother off. Once again, I had my eye on the Aston Villa game. And boy, oh boy, was I relieved when I saw a red card. I was like, okay, Manchester United, please don't fall my hand. Please don't fall my hand. And there were chances for Manchester United. See, I've switched to Manchester United in a Chelsea review match. Okay, I'm all over the place. Yes, they had the red card as Aston Villa, and at that point I was basically switching between games. So I didn't catch much, but I was just basically switching between games. I'm like, okay, Manchester United, could you do us a solid? Could you do us a solid? And eventually, the goal came for Manchester United, and at that point, I finally could sit back and relax. Why? Because we were leading, Aston Villa were player down and a goal down. So technically, we were leading by 2-0. The surprise package, though, was Newcastle. Boy, oh boy. I'm glad you guys still qualified, because imagine if you didn't qualify. Just imagine what it would have been. Anyway, Everton, they turned up. And at that point, when Lavia finally comes in, there was a switch between Sancho and Lavia. And later on down the line, there was also a switch between, Malo Gusto and Pedro Neto. And at that point, Cole Palmer moved to the attack. He was basically a false nine. And in that moment, you could see it became so obvious how out of sorts Cole Palmer is. Because every time the ball just gets to him, and this is something that we have known even from the previous season, Cole Palmer, as in false nine, he really doesn't know what to do, because he's creative. Every time he has the ball, he's looking for that killer pass to someone up front. And when he's alone up front, he's like, what do I do? The ball just gets taken from him. And I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. Cole Palmer does not work as a false nine. Poch tried it. It didn't work. We shouldn't be doing this to this guy. As well as Tariq George. Fair play, Maresca. I'm glad he didn't bring in Tariq George, because that would have been another horrible thing to watch. So it becomes nervy towards the end of the game. And of course, the Premier League, they love drama. They gave 8 minutes. 8 minutes. And I'm like, who died in the pitch? Why 8 minutes? However, they gave 8 minutes because I know they want drama. And it became a little bit nervy towards the end. You could see it, because at that point we were trying. I applaud Sanchez for trying to buy time, and there was this point where what's his name, Wood, had this opportunity to score, but thankfully he was offside. In fact, Nottingham Forest were having more of the ball at that point, and we were having to sit deep to defend. And this part got me worried. I'm like, okay, yes, things are going well in other games, but I just want you to win. You know, I hate it when you have to rely on another team. It kind of feels like you didn't really work or deserve it. Well, fair play, Chelsea. Fair play. They held their ground for the 8 minutes, and I was ecstatic. And Chelsea goes through to the Champions League. We didn't just end in 5th, we ended in 4th, which is even better. Newcastle, 5th. So Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle. Beautiful, cool as you like. And of course with Tottenham from the window, qualifying, jumping through the window into the Champions League. We've qualified. And now this brings me to the other point of this video. Bluco, Todd Bowlby, Lauren Stewart, the other director, what's his name? Yeah, you know yourself. The ball is in your court. Now, at this point, I will take transfers seriously. Remember, I said in my previous video that I will not take the transfers seriously because we have not qualified. Now we've qualified. Now I will take the transfers seriously. I just pray, I just hope that these owners will do the right thing in the transfer market. Because it's clear as day that we need a prolific striker. We need a good goalkeeper. We need a spine for this team. And by spine, I mean goalkeeper and midfielder, and as well as an attack. Yay! I don't mind if we also get a good defender. You know, let's have that spine back in the old days, what we used to be. I will make another video about this because this now, the team Enzo Maresca has delivered technically because he still has another final, the Conference League. And if you can do that, boy oh boy, in your first season, taking us back to Champions League and the Conference League, not that I'm giving any special preference to reps to the Conference League because we should be winning that. But the fact that Enzo Maresca, I'm saying this not as a Chelsea fan, I'm saying this on Enzo Maresca's CV as a coach, as a newbie, a learner. In your first season as a coach in top flight football, you secured Champions League and a possible trophy. Fair play, fair play. But as Chelsea, we are above this. This is the barest. The minimum level is Champions League qualification, and we got that in the bag. So now it is up to you, the owners. The ball is in your court. Are you going to support this manager, or are you going to hang him out there to dry next season? It will be decided in the transfer market. This transfer market. I don't want to hear, oh, we have a 7-window plan, we have a 5-window. No. Now is the time to act. You've seen what Liverpool have done with Verts. They mean business. You're looking at Man City. They mean business. The ball is in your court now. Over to you. Yeah. So, guys, I'm happy. I'm glad you're happy. At least we're relieved. We look forward to Wednesday. And I think that's it. I've covered everything. So, guys, please don't forget to like, to comment. If I missed anything, if you wish to add anything, I will be in the comment section. Subscribe, as it will help the channel. Let's grow together, guys. Help my baby channel. And I appreciate your help as you do. Take care of yourself, guys. God bless. Have a lovely evening. I know I will.